Well, we can agree we both have smart parents for giving us the same name, so that's a good starting point. Nick, thanks for doing this. So I'd like to start off with your story. How did you accidentally fall into franchising? What's your franchise backstory?
So it's actually my introduction to franchising, a crash course in 2020, and thanks to some great mentors. One who's with the company, Darren Tipton, our CEO. But I think, ultimately franchising to me is leading with a people first mentality. And that's the way I've led my career and worked with teams and people over the course of my career. And, that's really been a main foundational point of my transition to Paris Baguette and my past 5 years here.
Your backdrop was primarily operations before getting to this point in franchise growth, which we'll get into, right?
Yeah. I spent most of my career in operations. The early part of my time with Paris Baguette was in strategy. I wore several different hats over the course of my 5 years here. Several in operations as VP of Ops, COO, and now over the past most of the last year, I've been spending a lot of time with our development team.
What I love about that backdrop is oftentimes sales doesn't have operations. And so this is going to sound like a really mean thing to say. Salespeople are really good at selling. They tend to not be as detail oriented as they need to be. And so when you apply someone that's in ops back to sales, now you're looking at it in a way to operationalize the sales model, which means it's going to have more detail. Is that an accurate thing to say, or have you seen that in your career in operations?
Yeah, it's fair to say. I think most often people lean into their comfort zone. I'm rarely comfortable, and I look at any new opportunity and any new challenge as a way to learn and a way to build on potentially great processes that were in place and continue to expand on them. And then most importantly, really putting the right people in the right places to do great things for the organization. Specifically, I've cut my teeth in operations for many years, which has been a great way to gain a deep understanding of the business, and then apply that deep understanding of the business to prospective franchise owners who have interest in buying a franchise with Paris Baguette.
You're in it, and you've been here for really the ride. Like Paris Baguette was a stable company, but much different, predominantly Asian markets, about 100 locations when you're getting involved in the company, but not mainstream. And so there's these pockets of Paris Baguettes all over the country. And so now you've gone on this explosive growth piece. So two sides to it. First, a question, then I want you to explain things. Because you're on the roller coaster, do you feel like you're on the unicorn? Because you like, for what Paris Baguette has done, it is a unicorn in franchise. It's very rare for this story to exist at the growth pace, the unit level economics, the franchisees continuing to expand, like all the ingredients that have gone into the business at this point. Are you aware of it, or is the roller coaster going too fast? And then give me a sense of how are things going?
It's a fun roller coaster. When I started in 2020, we had 73 locations, and to your point, many in Asian forward, Asian leaning markets. We've had a number of great folks on the senior leadership team come on, over the course of even before I started and through present date, to really help make a positive impact on the brand. Our CMO, our head of supply chain, obviously our CEO, in terms of the vision of Paris Baguette North America and where we're heading. and I think that's been tremendous, to be able to drive the vision, which is to reestablish neighborhood bakery cafe as the heart of the community around the world, and then specifically for us around North America. But to your point, it's we're an ever evolving brand, and it's incredibly exciting. There are points when we look up during ironically during our QBR, which is tomorrow, we look up and we're able to celebrate various milestones, which is a great opportunity for us.
How many units open now?
We'll 224, and we'll be 230 over the course of the next couple of weeks.
And how many will open this year?
We have 100 benchmarked for this year, which is our high water mark so far.
Right. You'll open more in 25 than you had when you started, when you joined the company, which is kind of crazy. I mean,
yeah.
From my franchise backdrop, and I want to give some more context to this, because part of this is, if there's a candidate that's watching this, there's a few things to note. One, supply and demand. Like when you're talking about opening up 100 restaurants or cafes in a year, that means supply is deteriorating and demand is increasing. And so there was a quote that I remember seeing. It was the founder of Panda Express, and he had become a franchisee with Tide Cleaners, which the end of this story isn't that Tide Cleaners has taken off and had this happen, but one of the questions was, well, why did you buy into this? And he said, I don't want to miss the next McDonald's. And it's an interesting philosophy, but the FOMO, that's why people buy in. If I really look at the business case study on Paris Baguette, name was already beautiful. That's something that you can't just magically recreate. Like Paris Baguette, it could open in any market, but because of where the foundation of the global units were, it was opening in predominantly Asian markets. But now what I'm seeing is, as you open further into mainstream, the AUVs aren't staying the same. They're going up because more and more customers are falling in love with the beautiful product, the quality of the product, and the quality of the cafe. And so the rarity of this is financially backed business with infrastructure and operations to have great supply chain, mixed with sophisticated operators that buy in. And this is not a cheap franchise. They're opening with their expectations being either met or exceeded, and now they're swelling up more locations. And so when all those pieces get put together, this is a pretty magical situation. So, and that's why I said, you're on this roller coaster, but to have a chance to pinch yourself and say, wow, this has been a crazy ride and we're just getting started. Does it, you said it happens at the QBR, but does that happen?
It happens, but our team is typically so intent on what's next. It's and very passionate about what's next. I think that's ultimately what we're all focused on. From the 51 locations we opened last year to the 100 that we have earmarked and have a true pathway toward for this year. 150 potentially next year. It's we're ever evolving, and our team is really focused on that. And we have these moments where we can stop and celebrate, and then we all huddle back together and think about how we can continue to make an impact on tomorrow.
As beautiful as this path has been, so 5 years now, you're getting to 100 units a year. You'll easily get to a place of surpassing 300, but 300 is not 3,000. And so when you think about the runway here, what's amazing is it's almost like the last 5 years we're building up the foundation to start the engine. Now that the engine is going 150 next year, the engine's there to keep going. What are the challenges in maintaining culture, maintaining the right people, maintaining franchisees? How are you approaching those, and what other challenges do you see as you continue to accelerate the gas?
Yeah, growth is super exciting, but growth is an immense amount of work. And to your point, it's being able to understand your scale and understand the people and the people that you need per function and how they'll impact the business positively, but also how they'll interact. I think that oftentimes is a scenario that isn't really truly focused on, but we take very seriously in terms of the cohesion of the team, and really being able to, making sure that the team members that we do bring on are incredibly cohesive and have the right share the same mindset in terms of embarking upon a phenomenal mission, buying into the vision, and really buying into our brand values. So important for us.
How do you vet that?
In-person meetings when and where possible. A lot of interactions with our team, leadership team, department team members. Understanding if someone's been to a Paris Baguette cafe, if they've spent the time to understand who we are as a bakery cafe operation, is all very important to us.
What keeps you up at night?
A lot
as
of
it
things.
relates to the business.
A lot of things. Doubling back on what we've done. What we did in 2020 doesn't work now. What we did in 2024 doesn't work now. What we did maybe 3 weeks ago won't work tomorrow. So continuing to analyze and consider how we're changing, how we're evolving, what processes, partnerships, and existing platforms, let's say, what are continuously evolving to support our franchise owners. And that's always been my number one priority, is how do we support our franchise owners so that they're effective and that they're happy with their results, so that they continue to see the benefit of Paris Baguette. And if they see the benefit of the Paris Baguette operation and organization, word of mouth is the best compliment. So
it's like the reality is you're not going to have a franchise sales challenge. The challenge ends up being like ensuring protection of culture fit more than anything, because the business is too sound right now. So I would imagine like knocking on the door and saying, let me in, is not the problem. It's more so saying, how do we make sure we're bringing in scale mindset franchisees who are going to treat their employees the right way so that they can be the centerpiece of a community?
Very well said. 100%. I think what we look at it as bringing, just as we do with team members and corporate employees with Paris Baguette, we look at franchise owners the same way. Do they model our brand values? Do they have heart? Do they rise to the occasion? Do they nourish the community, and do they spread joy? And will they embody those virtues and values when hiring managers, hiring team members, and operating their Paris Baguette cafe?
This is called the hot seat. So this is a hot seat question, but you get to 150 stores. Is there, that's going to be 3 stores a week. Is there a cap where like you know that you could do more, but you have to be very mindful to make sure that you don't stretch too thin? Because again, like unicorn, there's very few brands that can say that they could get to a place of opening 3 stores a week. You're going to get there. Is that kind of the top of a pace standpoint, or can it break through that barrier too?
We love the word how. So how we get there is always our focus. Of course, we'll always be concerned with scaling too quickly. We'll be concerned with dilution, but how we mitigate those factors is what we tend to focus our efforts on.
5 years ago, you take this job. Obviously, you've worked with Darren in the past, so you have a built-in relationship. And he says, "This is the vision. This is what we want to do." What percentage of your brain is like 100% this is going to happen, and what percentage of your brain is like, "I hear you. I see the vision," and now it's been obviously executed, but I have some question marks.
Yeah, it's great question. So when I first discussed the opportunity with Darren, it was exactly as you said. It was understanding the concept and the other half of my brain said, I need to see this to believe it. So before we go any further, almost modeling out what we'd expect now from a prospective, team member or person to bring onto Paris Baguette, I immediately said, I need to meet you at a cafe. So I met him at our Columbus Circle cafe, and I was absolutely amazed by the product quality, the ambiance, the sheer abundance of product. I was just absolutely floored. And I also saw the opportunity and Darren's vision to bring local elements that would expand the brand into the opportunity, and share the opportunity for us to move into the Fresnos of the world, Wichita, Brooklyn, right, and Canada. We're in on 110 Bloor Street in Toronto. That would allow the brand to scale outside of Asian forward markets and create a more mainstream opportunity for the brand to succeed in any market in North America. So I was absolutely floored when I spent the time with Darren and team in Columbus Circle, my first visit with the group, and saw the vision and felt it when I was there.
The brand and the branding and the marketing has come so far since I had that same experience. I had understood that Paris Baguette existed because I would walk in New York City and see it. It wasn't on my list. I would go to Starbucks because it was familiar to me. So why would I go into a non-familiar, what I assumed was more of like a pastry place? Like, it just wasn't on my radar. And I go into a unit in Jersey. This is 2020. And I look at this thing. I'm like, this thing's been sitting here this whole time. And it wasn't confusing. It was more so like, it's rare to find a concept that has quietly been doing good and has built up a fanatical following, but didn't hit the general population. And or especially when it has a name Paris Baguette, like a name that is completely Americanized. And I had that same experience. And I walk into these stores now, I'm like, they're so beautiful and clean, and the product looks like it was manufactured by a robot when it was made by Cakers and Bakers. So like, it's crazy to see this thing. So here's my odd question. Like, this is that platinum album. Like, no matter what, you've wrote the perfect album, and this is going to continue to grow. Does that make that hard on a career? Because now, like, the pressure, if you ever were to leave Paris Baguette to find the next thing, these are such needles in the haystack. Like, this is so beautiful. Is that like, maybe it's like, let's go continue to dominate the world?
Yeah, it's been an incredible journey so far for 5 years, and I hope that there's another, as long as Darren's happy to have me here, I'm happy to be here and support the cause and help this wonderful brand and wonderful team continue to grow, and really wonderful franchisees continue to grow. We have a great group, and really exciting year ahead to welcome another 250 plus deals. Probably about half of them will be new members. I meet every single one before we bring them in and have them sign their agreements, and they're all really special to me in terms of our relationship and rapport, and bring them on as a part of the Paris Baguette family.
I'm glad you said that. I have a question about that. What makes you say no to someone? Like, what in your gut says not the right fit? Like, what is that quality?
I think I'd start with passion for the brand. I think it's so important for all of us, like your experience, my experience in terms of my introduction to the brand, and our franchisees, the why they want to be a part of Paris Baguette is the critical question that I ask in every meeting prior to taking the opportunity to execute franchise agreements. And then, do they embody our brand values? And that's it's very meaningful for me that they do, and that they'll deliver that same experience that we strive for in their cafe or cafes when they open.
So this is probably oversimplifying it, but if you're sensing that they're in it for the money, even though like you have to be in it for the money for some extent because you're building business, but if it feels too money forward and not people forward, is that part of what you're sniffing out?
Yeah, we're deeply we're in a place in our growth where we're deeply focused on strengthening the brand's position, and guest experience is an incredibly important aspect for us. Our leadership team reads every review every morning religiously every day, and that's how important it is to Darren, our CEO, and everyone on our leadership team. And that's the level of importance and detail we expect from our owners in terms of expecting from their teams at a very high level of guest service.
I talked with a franchisee last week, and we'll close on this. And I said, "What advice do you have for someone looking to buy?" And he said, "If I'm giving you advice, just do it." He's like, "If I have to convince you to buy, you shouldn't even be talking to me." And so I think about that because I think about someone that gets up to the ledge. It's like, I would like to do this, but I'm nervous. It's like you almost have to just jump off and do it. So my question is, there's a candidate watching this right now. What do you want them to know about the opportunity?
It's a great question. Paris Baguette is a brand highly focused on the highest quality breads, pastries, cakes, sandwich, salad, and made-to-order beverage program anchored by Lavazza Coffee. There is a tremendous amount of white space added for the brand. We'll be over 300 locations this year, open and operating, a high watermark of 100 openings, 150 forecasted for next year. We have a true roadmap to and beyond 1,000 locations by 2030. We're strengthening our brand visibility every day with new openings in new and exciting markets. And we're building a domestic manufacturing facility in Texas, which will continue to have a positive impact on our R&D and our financial model across all of North America. So we're continuously and ever evolving, and there's no time better than now to be a part of Paris Baguette North America.
Yeah, I think the supply and demand thing is going to continue to be an issue. And what happens is a franchisee, if they sit too long, their market gets swallowed up, and most people want to open at least unit one in the market that they live in. And you're going to look back at this and say, I missed an opportunity to be on a rocket ship, which is, again, it's rare in franchising, and it's even rarer in franchising when it's a capital strong business that is investing back in the business. I can see like the frozen yogurt trend when the self-serve frozen yogurt brands exploded. No point of differentiation in the product, not over-investing in franchisee success, just selling a whole bunch of franchises. So there's moments that felt like rocket ships, but there was no foundation behind it. I love that there's foundation behind it. And every human being that I've met as a part of this organization is a stand-up human being. And that has created a culture that I can see it. When I was at your conference, I could see just how proud people were and were becoming for being a part of this mission. I'm grateful that you shared some of your story, Nick, and I'm grateful that I get to say that Paris Baguette's part of my story as well. So thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate the time.
Of course. For Nick, I'm Nick. This was another Franchisor Hot Seat. Take care.